folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our book for today is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Now, there is killing, shooting, and some violence in this one, so if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Okay, this here is the publisher. This right here. I hope you can see that. Okay, so I believe this is too quite a well-known book because based off of this, the movie Blade Runner was filmed and or created, I should say. And this is my second Philip K. Dick book. I read a collection of his stories a few years ago, and I found them very interesting. And well, I've heard of this one, of course, so I was surprised it wasn't called Blade Runner. And I bought it, and I finally sat down and read it. So okay, it's quite different from the movie, at least what I remember, because I did start watching the movie and I never finished, and this was also a few years ago. You still have Rick Deckard, the bounty hunter slash, I guess, detective, who it's his job to hunt down Andes, as they're referred to. And every android he kills, he gets money for. Now, in the movie, it's this the gritty reality, a lot of people, androids, and everything. But in the book, most people have immigrated to Mars or to other planets, and because Earth is full of this dust that caused plagues, and animals have died out. There's many animals that have gone extinct because of it, and there's very few people left on Earth, really. Because where Rick Deckard lives with his wife, there's not that many people in the building. And also, there are rules for immigrating. Like, if you're considered what they call here special or a chicken head, then you're not allowed to immigrate or marry. And so, yeah, it's a lot of the world is in ruin, and there aren't that many people, and they have flying cars here. They don't, as you can see here on the book cover over there. So it's a vastly different world. It's like in the movie, I remember the streets being busy and people walking and everything, and here it's vastly different. Also, Rick Deckard's different too. For one, he doesn't have a wife, and like it goes, he goes to this is it the Rosen Association? I don't know if it was the same in the movie, because there's a new type of android called the Nexus 6. And they need to see if the tests they have in order to find out who's human and who's an android, if it will work on this new type, the Nexus 6, which is created by the Rosen Association. So he goes to them and tests out Rosen's niece, Rachel Rosen. Though in the movie, I think she was the secretary. She wasn't the niece. So he tests her, and he sees that she is an android. Like, based on her reaction to social situations. And, like, he puts a patch on her cheek. There's a light in her eye, and he's testing her reactions on this device with handles and needles moving here and there. And he's done this a lot of times. And at first, let's say the Rosen Association wanted to kind of trap him there and say that, oh yeah, your test is not, not sufficient for this. It's not going to work. But he knows that it will, and he goes and hunts. He gets a list of androids that need to be hunted. The previous bounty hunter was almost killed by one of them. But it got shot in the spine, so he's going to be in the hospital for a while. And Rick Deckard has to take over. And so in essentially one day, the book takes place in one day, well, almost 2 days. He hunts them down. Some of them, well, first one is it goes and lives in a building where someone by the name of John R. Isidore lives, and he's a what they call a chicken head, a special. So he can only get like this job. He drives a truck for a fake veterinarian clinic. What I mean by this is very interesting because so many animals have died out. It's a status symbol to own an animal here. And Rick and his wife used to have a sheep until it died from an infection. And then he bought a fake sheep that looks very much like a real one. And he then takes care of it, but it's embarrassing to have that. They need to have a real animal. It's quite interesting to read that and think about it even because I'm looking around. I have my 2 cats and my dog Doyle, and so in this universe I would be considered. I would probably have been very wealthy to own 3 animals. So and again, although the like if you got a goat or you got a horse, that's way more rare. It's a very interesting social thing here. Yeah, so Rick, Rachel Rosen calls him, tries to tell him, you need my assistance to get these escaped androids. So he kills one that infiltrated the WPO, I think it was. It's like the Soviet police, I think, in Russia. And oh, sorry if you hear any noise. It's my neighbors, I think. And he yes, it was it said that it was a detective and tried to kill Rick, but Rick killed him first because he unlike the previous bounty hunter David, he knew what to expect. So he kills one, then he goes to the other one. This time it's a lady. And I think this scene they also put in the movie, but instead of her being an opera singer, what was she in? I think she was an exotic dancer in the movie. Because I remember she performed with the snake, and she was like she wasn't wearing a shirt. She just had, I think, a lot of glitter on her. Because later she puts on this thing that's not really much of a shirt. So yeah, but then she calls for help. She calls for the police, saying that Rick is a pervert because of the question. Because he gives her the test. He has to give the test before he can, retire, as they say, the android. So he gets arrested, taken to a police station he never heard of. They try to convince him that he is an android, and he's left like with the, I guess, the kind of chief there, and he calls one of their bounty hunters. It turns out the chief is an android, and he has everyone on the list because he left with all of them from Mars. They escaped from Mars. So the other bounty hunter goes to get their test because he, some reason, never heard of the test. This chief android almost kills Rick, but then doesn't. Then the other bounty hunter returns with the test, and he kills his own chief, and then they both leave because the whole place is full of androids, apparently. It's like this secret police station that they control. So no one knows about them. So it's to help other androids. They leave. Then they go together after the android, Lupe, I think, yeah, Lupe, I think that's how you pronounce her name. There's a question if the other bounty hunter is in fact a android, or if it was just said by the other android to separate them. So they apprehend the opera singer, but they go to the museum because that's where she went. They get her, and then the other bounty hunter shoots her, and then Rick finishes the job because she's laying there, with the laser and everything. Then Rick really starts to hate this other bounty hunter, and he hopes he's also an android. And he gives him the test. No, he's not an android. Then Rick leaves with all the money. In between all of this, we go back to Isidore. He takes an animal that he thinks is robotic, but it's a real cat. The cat's dead, and he takes it to them. That happens sometimes. And then he meets, the android lady that is the same model as Rachel Rosen, because she tells him that's her name. And she's in the apartment below him. So sweet, you don't have to pay rent. You just settle in. Anyway, he likes her, and he goes buy some food off the black market to impress her, have dinner with her. And then two more androids join them, supposed husband and wife. It looks like life on Mars wasn't so great, and they wanted to come back there and everything. And then the husband, the android husband, sets a trap for the bounty hunters that might come. After all of this, Rick is he doesn't want to be an android bounty hunter anymore. He takes his $3,000 or credits, whatever they were called, and goes and buys a goat. He's still gonna have to pay for it monthly, but he buys a goat. His wife is really happy. In the beginning of the book, they're having a quarrel, him and his wife. And like in between, he's like, "Why didn't I divorce her 2 years ago when we thought of separating?" And there's also this Mercer. It's kind of like a whole empathy thing for everyone. And they hold on to handles, and they're all together. And there's a show called Buster Friendly and his Friendly Friends. And they make a show every fucking day because they're androids, no one knows. And they expose that Mercer's not real because they hope that if humans believe that they don't have this empathy, then they could, I guess, more easily infiltrate among them and no one would know. Perhaps. Anyway, Rick returns with the goat. Mercer is about to start. If that's how you pronounce it, my apologies. I could not figure it out. But he gets a call from his chief. He has to go that day and retire the other three androids. Doesn't want to, but he has to. So he calls Rachel Rosen for help. At first she says, "No, it's too late. I'm not gonna come." That evening, they said, "All right, then go with me to a hotel room." So they do. They talk about it. He views her. He looks at her, and they have sex. I guess. They have sex. Although I'm not sure how that would feel since she's. It's a little confusing. Anyway, they have sex, and he kind of likes her though. Her body's not very look-wise developed. Like her face is that of an adult, but her body looks quite childish. He says, not appealing. It's she doesn't have any womanly curves. So they have sex. She says, "Oh, there's a fake laser gun in my purse." And anyway, they go after they said, "Well, come on, we need to go." So he goes with her in his hover car, and all of this was a plan of hers to deter him from killing androids, basically. And she's done it more than once. And this other bounty hunter that he found cynical and cruel was actually one that she did that with as well, but it didn't work on him. And then he finally understood why he was like that. And she does it, because they'll sleep with her, and then they'll suddenly feel sympathy for the androids and not want to kill them. Rick says, "I'm gonna kill you right now. If I can do that, then I will be able to kill the rest." But he ends up not killing her, and she thinks she won. Then we go back to Isidore. He finds a spider as he's going to get a TV set for the androids from the car. They don't treat him that well either, but he sympathizes with them because people like him, specials or chicken heads, are not treated that well either by people, even though they're humans. Well, I guess they don't have any organizations or places for someone like Isidore, even though he's functioning. And he's very lonely because he's the only one in that building. Anyway, he comes back to them, gives them the TV set, plugs it in. They have Booster's announcement, or Buster Friendly, and he's announcing the Mercer is fake. So he brings the spider. Now again, they're all so many animals are extinct, and the one of the androids, Paris or Pris, as she calls herself, who's the same model as Rachel Rosen. She starts with scissors she took from the other android lady. She cuts off the spider's legs, and this very much disturbs and disgusts, or not disgusts, but it deeply disturbs Isidore. And then he, I guess, in his disturbance, grabbed onto the handles to listen to Mercer, and he gave him like a fake spider. I'm not sure how this happens. If this is all there's something experiencing, but then he meets him and he hands him one, and how did it end up from the handles in his hand? I have no idea. How does that work? What can they teleport between things? I'm not sure. Anyway, the androids call him. They hear someone. Detective Rick Dickard's there, so they tell Isidore to go answer the door and to tell him that they're if he wants to come in, and he has to show a warrant. Isidore leaves the apartment, goes down and finds the detective down there in a patch of a garden. He goes there to release the spider so it won't get hurt. This one won't have his legs cut by Pris. Then Rick meets him, recognizes that he's a chicken head, and asks him, where are they? And Isidore said, I'm not going to tell you. And he's all this. Now Rick starts to kind of threaten him to say, it's your duty, but then I guess he realizes there's no point really. And so he just leaves and goes look for them himself. As he goes up the stairs, he sees Mercer appear in front of him and tell him, you have to, you don't want to do it even though it's wrong. Sometimes we have to do things that are wrong. And so he tells Dickard, right behind you is the most dangerous one. Be careful, the most dangerous android. And Pris is behind him. She has a laser gun. And because he's been warned, he shoots her first and kills her. Or it, I should say. Then he goes down below and starts talking like Isidore, stuttering and everything. And that convinces the two other androids that he's Isidore. So they open the door and he kills both of them too. And then Isidore also appears and Rick tells him not to be in there. But Isidore stays. Then Rick finds a phone and phones his police chief and tells him about all this. He said, well done. It's quite a record that he killed 6 Andes in one day, basically. So then he tells Isidore, you should leave here, go live somewhere else, not in this apartment while they clean everything up. And so Isidore said, I'll go further into the city where there are people. Then Rick, after all of this, goes back home. His wife's waiting for him. She said, "Oh, Rick, this is awful. Our goat's been killed." Some girl, as she describes Rachel Rosen, said, she pulled the goat and threw it off of the roof. And he said it's like she wasn't even trying to hide because me and the neighbors saw her. And she said, yeah, she wasn't trying to. And then Rick just hops back in his hover car and leaves. And he goes to this area that's desolate. No one's there. And he's sitting there and he starts going up the mountain there, a road, and imagines he's Mercer. He says, now I become Mercer. but then he, I think, almost falls and goes back down. No, he does fall. And then he gets calls and he answers them. It's from the police. His wife's looking for him. It's the secretary calling. Your wife's looking for you, sir. Please call her back. Everything looks like okay. He has no energy left, but then he sees a toad there. And he goes and grabs a box from his trunk and puts it in. And he's like, oh, you could win a medal and millions for finding something like this. And then he finally flies back home. His wife's worried about him. Then she hears the door opens and then Rick is there. And she said, come on, sit down. She makes him a cup of coffee. She says, the chief is calling you. And then he shows her the box. And she opens it and there's a toad. And she's like, oh, is it gonna, hurt me? He said, no, lift it up. But unfortunately, it's not a real toad. It's an electronic, it's a model of it. The question was, how did it end up, all the way there is another one. And so she tells him, well, come on, you need to sleep. So she takes him to the bedroom. They have this thing called a mood organ, and she thinks maybe she'll need to press it for him to give him a certain mood. Like in the beginning, she woke up in a bad mood and they wanted to set her organ to something, but she set her schedule to have 6 hours of depression. Anyway, it's not needed. He falls asleep. She makes sure he's not going to get up again. And she goes, calls the electronic pet store and asks for, what nourishment is needed for electronic toads. And at the end, she tells the sales lady, yeah, sure, but can you have it all delivered? This toad is very important to my husband, and else I can't leave him. And then she makes herself a cup of warm coffee, and that's how it ends. That's the end of the book. Also, I forgot to mention the androids here apparently don't live very long. They have like 4 years. The way they're built, their skin and everything, they really resemble humans. There's this tissue and I think something else they can't replace it. They haven't figured out a way to do it. So androids don't live that long, really. Maybe 4 years tops. So that's a part I should have mentioned. So this was Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I guess I perhaps expected more something like in the movie, but the beauty with Philip K. Dick, as I noticed, is you can take like the basic idea that he wrote and like make so much more of it. And even though what he writes is very interesting, it sometimes just ends in a not in the most satisfying conclusion. I would say. But yeah, it's very much different, but you can build from it. Like the movie is way more. Well, obviously has a different name, but it's very gritty. It shows a much grittier and I guess more lively world than what is here. But it makes sense because they made it different. And I think in the movie the question was, you know, like our androids they have a soul. I think maybe that was what they were pondering. And here it's not so much that it's not that the androids they feel they want to be human or anything. They just want to be acknowledged like the animals are. That you can't kill them, and they also want to live among them, but they don't want to be human. And it's not like Rick suddenly feels like that they are. It just all of a sudden sees them as something that's and not alive, but maybe that you shouldn't hunt down and kill. They also just want to live their lives. Or, well, yeah, what I mean. They are, in the end of the day, machines. But it's not the usual story of, you got an android that wants to be human. This is, they just, I suppose, just want to live peacefully and not be hunted. But they can't because they're not considered living, they're considered property. They're even lower than animals. animals are, almost sacred in how things are in this era, in this universe. So the people, cherish them. Like what Rachel did to Rick's goat was a great waste, and killing of creatures that there aren't so many of them anymore. But there won't be much of her later. And all of this, it was just the Rosen Association. They built the Nexus 6, and they wanted to reach a point where they built androids so advanced that you couldn't tell them apart from humans. There's always a corporation being stupid. Because what would have happened? What if they just infiltrated everything and killed all the humans eventually? You think they would do something like that? They kept making them more and more advanced. So it's again, Philip K. Dick has really fascinating ideas, but the world that he made isn't as gritty as what's in the movie. Like I really love the aesthetic of the movie. It's it's really the kind of thing I really like. But I also love the book very much so. I found it interesting. I guess Philip K. Dick shows a more I guess kind of how it would look in a mundane life. More from that angle where this all feels, normal. And then of course when Hollywood took his ideas, they made them more Hollywoodized. That's probably not a word, but you get what I mean. They needed some more philosophy. There's probably philosophy in this book too, but it kind of flew over my head. Maybe if I reread it again, I'll see it. But yeah, the androids dream. What would they want to do with their limited time? Or should they just be allowed, to exist, not be property? But some of them though are unstable in this book. And yeah, Rick even ponders, why have they made them so advanced? Why just not leave them as they were, like older models that weren't advanced? But that was it. That was a really great read. There's also books about Blade Runner, like they took from the script for the movie, which I think I'll also read in the future. And I really need to finish watching the film, because I am very curious. All right, folks. So that is it. Let me know what you thought of "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" If you read the book, did you like it, or what do you think of Philip K. Dick? I find his stories interesting. And that is it. Remember, collect what you're passionate about, share it on YouTube. Bye!